Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Menlo Park Veterinary Recruitment Podcast. Today, I'm joined by my fellow colleague, Ciaran. Say hi, Ciaran.
Hello, thank you for having me, Josh.
You're very welcome. And today, we're going to be covering the commitment of owning a pet, new versus adopted. Now, when I first wanted a pet, I imagined long walks in the nice summer heat and really cozy, cuddly evenings. What I hadn't pictured were the muddy paw prints across the carpet or the early morning wake up calls because the dog needs the bathroom. Now, pets are joyful, but also a significant long term responsibility. So, today we'll be looking at what pet ownership really involves and whether it's better to buy new or adopted. So I want to get us started off with the commitment of owning a pet. Now, one of the big things that not a lot of people think about because they think, oh, let's just get a nice new cuddly cockapoo, for example, is the time. Pets require a lot of time, structure, regular walks, feeding, playing, and grooming. What else do you think comes with the commitment of owning a pet, Ciaran?
I think, and this is speaking from experience as well, that I think money is a major aspect. It's something that I think sometimes people are in love with the idea of, oh yeah, let's get a pet, especially if it's going to be a family pet, like a dog or a cat. And they're not necessarily financially prepared for that. And I don't just mean being able to afford the food and the bowls and collars and that sort of thing, but there are toys that come into it. And some of them are ridiculously expensive nowadays, speaking as a dog owner. But there's also things like insurance, there's vaccinations, there's always those unexpected vets bills as well. You can have, perhaps it might, a perfect example, my in-law's dog recently just got stung by a bee.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was a little bit of had to be taken to the vets just in case there were any sort of allergic reaction or anything like that. And you just don't necessarily expect those. So that's where the insurance side of things can come in really handy. And there's also payment plans and such that veterinary practices put out there as an option. But there's also another thing I'd like to touch on is the emotion element of things. So pets rely on us completely. It's not like with a dog, for example, and I appreciate I use the example of a dog, but it's just with being a dog owner myself. They don't understand busy schedules, and they don't necessarily understand being left on their own and the separation anxiety that can come from that. So it's a case of that they can be very reliant on us, and it's not just for food, but also for that emotional connection. That we are kind of their purpose, if you will. They aim to try and please us. And even if it's not a dog and it's these other animals that you can have, be it an exotic or a cat, they are completely reliant on us. And I think we
Mhm.
develop the emotional bonds that come with that, that influence our pet ownership.
Mhm. And just tying on from the emotion and the money and the time is the longevity in which you have to do those things. I mean, many pets, dogs in particular, some cats will actually live 10 to 15 years and sometimes so much longer. And I don't think people really appreciate just how long that is. Um, I actually know a golden retriever that's 19 years of age. Still
It's a
got
very
a
good innings.
it is, particularly for that breed. He's still very young at heart, but has a very cute white face. Um, People often say that pets are like children, and in many ways they are. The main difference is that children eventually learn independence, whereas pets will always look to you. So let's look at some of the pros and cons of buying new over adopting. So Kieran, why don't you get us started with the pros of buying new?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I appreciate my listeners may well be fed up of hearing this, but I do have a cockapoo called Obi. Excuse me. And I had never had a pet growing up. We never had a family pet of any kind, be it a guinea pig, dog, cat, whatever you think. Um, and I personally wanted that experience of having a puppy. I wanted to kind of raise it as I saw fit. Um, we were able to kind of pick the specific breed we wanted, go predictable about the size of him. We knew that cockapoos were very good temperament-wise, particularly around families, especially because my young niece was not long into the world, so I wanted to make sure it was an animal that would be good with her. it also gave me the chance to kind of have that bond with him that, as I say, with not having ever had a family animal, I was able to kind of shape that bond and the training and the habits right from the start. Just little things as well. It's not even necessarily a case of he's absolutely perfect off the lead. He has his moments, but I've trained him that whenever we get to the curb of a pavement, he sits and he knows that he doesn't go and cross the road until I give him the all clear. So it's things along those lines. And of course, I think buying an animal from a reputable breeder, health checks are often carried out just as part of the service, be that cats or dogs, some exotics, so it's important to have those kind of that background information so that you can then plan ahead accordingly.
Yeah, and of course, buying from a reputable breeder, usually you'll meet mum and you'll meet dad,
Yes.
and you have a full rundown of, like you said, family history if there's any health issues. I know that for cockapoos, categorically the breed has quite bad skin and they're prone to having ear issues, so you can find that out as well. But in buying from reputable breeders, we're moving on to the cons of buying new now. Sometimes that comes with a high cost. So some pedigree breeds can run into the thousands. Off the back of what you said, I'm sure the audience is sick of listening to me as well. Like you, Ciaran, I bought my dog new, but I have had dogs all the way through growing up. So I've had a border collie, I've had a corgi, I've had a cockapoo and another cockapoo. But training a young animal, especially after doing it 4 times, can be exhausting. You know, at least you've not got the bad habits of an older dog, if there are any, but it can be really, really exhausting, even just down to toilet training, which I remember was the worst with my current dog. And there's also some ethical concerns if your breeder is irresponsible and that they breed health issues with health issues. Bringing home a puppy can feel a bit like welcoming a newborn into the house. Sleepless nights, constant attention, and plenty of noise. The only difference is that puppies come with teeth, and newborns usually don't.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true.
So, if we're looking at adopting, then Ciaran, over buying, I'll start us off with some of the pros about that. So, I mean, you're giving a dog that maybe has come from a bad home. I'm not saying that all adopted dogs will be, but
And
you're
other
giving
animals.
and other animals, sorry, and other animals. Um, we're both dog owners, audience, so I think we're tailoring this to dogs. um, but you're giving animals a second chance, animals in need, that only really, as we discussed, want to provide love to their owners. On average, adopting, you have a lower cost than buying. Many adult dogs will arrive already trained, so whether that's potty training or not to chew anything. And there's also a wide range of animals available through shelters. Um, Now, Ciaran, why don't you share a rescue success story where the patience was rewarded, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. So my next door neighbours wanted to get a family dog. They've got 2 young children, and they wanted to get a family dog who um, was a rescue and was a character who maybe had some training, not somebody who was going to necessarily need kind of everything right from the word go, but had some basics down to a T. And they managed to get the lovely Edie, who is a beautiful Cocker Spaniel. Unfortunately, Edie had a really hard upbringing. She was not cared for properly. She was made to sleep and spend a lot of her time in a rabbit hutch. She was
Ouch.
really poorly looked after, very, very poor diet, wasn't regularly exercised, and she had a deep mistrust of men.
Oh.
But thankfully, with the help of, I believe it was Dogs Trust, the amazing Dogs Trust, and the effort that was put in by my next door neighbours to regularly go and see her and really introduce themselves properly, Edie's now absolutely flourishing. She's getting there with her fear of men, I've still to this day never been quite able to actually kind of pet her or stroke her or anything like that. But she's fine with my wife, which I think is a good sign that she's getting more familiar with strangers in general. But I appreciate that these things can take a long time. Sometimes they're never unlearned. But yeah, it's great to see that there are success stories out there for dogs. She's really part of the family now. She's got her own habits and her own ways of doing things. So she's very much part of the neighbours family.
I wish Edie continued success. Why don't you walk us through some of the cons of adopting then, Ciaran?
The main one that I believe is kind of the main stumbling block as to why people don't go for adopting is the unknown history, be that with health or behavioural issues, particularly the latter. The behavioural issues side of things, this comes to mind when I think of my own mum. When she was looking at adopting a dog a few years ago, a few people who'd done that in the past, kind of family friends, suggested that it probably wouldn't be the best idea just because her first grandchild had not long been welcomed into the world. And you just can't ever really be 100% sure as to what exposure those animals, and in that particular instance, a dog, has had to children. I know of, for example, my brother-in-law is a police dog trainer, and he was given a puppy. I say a puppy. He was given a new dog a couple of years ago, and the previous kind of background history was relatively unknown, and he unfortunately had to give it up for service work just because it had some sort of issue with children. It just was very aggressive toward children. Very aggressive behavior, barking, growling, pulling on the lead, that sort of thing. Fine with adults, but really, really bad with children. And I think in certain circumstances, when it comes to adopting, if you bring in an animal into your home, you need to be confident that they are going to have the right temperament with not only adults, but also with children. And I also think that the adjustment period can require a lot of patience. And unfortunately, a lot of people just aren't patient. They want the latest things right now. They want the best right now. There is a lack of patience in the wider kind of society. And sadly, the adjustment period that a lovely animal may require just isn't given to them, particularly with animals that like to get into habits like dogs and cats, as opposed to necessarily animals that we can't always see the difficulties they may be having, like guinea pigs or rabbits or reptiles. It can be a really tricky time for the animal if the new owner, the adoptive owner, is impatient.
Yeah, I guess adopting can sometimes feel like skipping the baby stage and moving straight to the school years. So fewer sleepless nights, but perhaps a few bad habits already in place.
Yes.
So let's look at, Ciaran, finding the right fit for you. Now, why don't you start us off?
I think for finding the right fit, it's important that an owner finds a pet that matches their lifestyle. So if it's somebody who just wants perhaps a little bit of company, they're not looking to go out and do a tremendous amount of walking or anything like that, a cat could be perfect.
Not a Belgian Malinois, or a German Shepherd.
Probably not. I mean, they're not the best pets anyway. They are proper working breeds. They need to be out there really being incredibly active. But of course, they're incredible service dogs for our police forces and such. But I think in the sense of as well, it's the space you've got. You don't adopt a horse if you live in a 10-story tower block. So you've got to make sure that you can actually make a point of of taking care of these animals and giving them the best life possible. Really?
Yeah.
Sorry, that example always comes to mind. It was an example I was given
agree.
by a vet a couple of weeks ago. It always just makes me chuckle. I think it's a case of that you've got to find that something that works well, and it can be related to work as well. I mean, cats are quite infamously, shall I say, independent. I think if you leave them with food and they've got access to come and go as they please, they're relatively happy just to come and go as needed. So they're ideal if somebody's working and they want a pet. Dogs, I think it's no secret, require a little bit more attention.
Mhm.
But again, it's the activity level, So if you're somebody who likes to be able to go out and still have your own life, but maybe come home to a nice animal, maybe a dog's not the right animal. Maybe it's something more like an exotic, like a guinea pig or a rabbit, that can be left and is quite content just being on its own,
Mhm.
mooching around.
Mhm.
But then you've got a real case, I think, that of the two, there's no best option. It's down to the individual. It's down to what works for them, or I say the individual or the family. Like I say with my neighbours, they wanted to adopt to really show their children how important it is to give an animal another chance and welcome them into their lives and show them love and affection. But some people, like myself, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to do the training. I wanted to build that bond right from the word go. And also for me, with there being a baby in the family, I couldn't necessarily take the risk of adopting.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that certain animals you adopt won't necessarily harm a child. I'm not trying to say that that's something that should always be taken into account, but it is something that, you have to think about all of these different factors. You can't just necessarily think, "Oh, I want an animal," and then just go and adopt the first dog you can. Or other animal. You've got to think about all these different factors.
Thank you, Ciaran. So to recap, then, I mean, pets need time, money, patience, and buying new, if you'd like, or a puppy from a reputable breeder offers some
Or
level
other
of,
animals.
or other animals, offers some level of predictability. Adopting offers transformation and that sort of reward aspect. Um, Now, whichever path you take, whether that's new or adopting, please just remember that pets don't come with a return policy. Once they're with you, they're family. Um, and if you're ready for that responsibility, the companionship and love that a pet brings, um, then go for it. It's one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done, although
I agree.
tough. And I'm sure, yeah, Ciaran completely agrees. I know that Ciaran is absolutely obsessed with his dog
I
and
am.
treats it like it is his child.
He is.
Yeah. So thanks for joining me again today, Ciaran.
Thank you for having me.
And no problem at all. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.